Welcome to Conversations with Women Living Well After 50. It's so lovely to have you join me today, and we're going to be talking about yoga and the benefits of yoga. So do you do a yoga practice? I know for me that I never really discovered yoga until later in midlife, and I had a pretty warped idea of what it was before then. I used to think it was something mystical, something that was for the alternative lifestyle, something a little bit left of centre. It was all about incense burning and mantras and things that I didn't really understand. And also, I never really thought that it was a legitimate workout, because unless I was huffing and puffing, I didn't feel that I'd really had a good workout. But how wrong was I? I wish that I'd discovered yoga much earlier in life, and I had, because I'd be getting the benefits of it now. I practice regularly, and as a runner, I've found that yoga is just so helpful in improving my running, but also keeping me flexible and stretching my muscles after a run. Also, I used to suffer with lower back pain, and I found that by doing a regular yoga practice, that pain has in fact, it has disappeared, and I'm feeling much more agile and flexible and more relaxed than I was 20 years ago. So I highly recommend the yoga practice to you. And that's why today I'm delighted to have my next guest in conversation, Carol Weddenberg of Harmony and Healthy Yoga. Now, having experienced herself a consecutive run of health crises, Carol realised that she needed to make some changes and transform from her corporate sales executive job and do something different. And that change was the spiritual and ancient art of the health and wellness lifestyle of yoga. Now, practicing and studying the traditional foundations of yoga in India and Asia, where Carol gained her accreditation, she realised that her dharma, or purpose, was to develop a pathway for others to feel better both physically, mentally and spiritually. Her desire and passion is to entice everyone to understand the balance, harmony, order and rhythm that yoga can give. In Carol's words, I want everyone to live a life free of pain and suffering with the mantra of a pathway for better living. So let's go to the conversation. Well, welcome, Carol, and it's so lovely to have you join me in conversation today.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be connecting with you and your community and talking about all things about yoga.
Yes, and as I said in my introduction, I didn't really discover yoga until really quite late in midlife, and I'd always had this really weird idea about yoga. I just thought it was sort of a bit airy-fairy and a bit sort of left of centre, and I'm a pretty practical person, and I thought, oh no, I don't know much about that. And also some people get caught up and think it's a religious cult or something like that. And so I just wondered, and now I regret that I didn't get into it earlier. But
with you, I'm exactly the same. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I just thought, most people have heard about yoga, and a lot of people practice it. But can you define for us actually what yoga is?
Well, from a definition point of view, it's a ancient, over 5,000 years old Eastern health and wellness system that talks about the connection of the mind, body, and spirit. And for most people associate yoga with it being a physical practice. You recognize the asana or the posture practice. But really, yoga is about this connection of the physical body with your emotional, intellectual mind. This realization that we have energy within us and we're surrounded by energy that's abundant. And having a joyful and happy life by connecting with our true authentic self. So it's a little bit deep, but it gives you a progression of the physical elements, then you go into the emotional or intellectual aspect of the practice, and then the third phase is like the spiritual practice. And it's this transformation that you gain from practicing the principles of yoga and feeling the benefits by it really incorporating in your normal day-to-day lives. And for me, that's what's the profound enjoyment of the practice.
Yes, because we do the practical side, as you say, but I know that once I've finished, I just, maybe even an hour later, I'm really starting to feel just so calm. And at first, when I started, it's a little bit like meditation. They say, well, I didn't really have a very good introduction to meditation, because I just kept thinking, oh, I can't think of anything, clear your mind. And the more you can say that, the more it comes in. But I realize now that you just accept it, let it go, and move on. But I think with yoga, I've really improved with that on the spiritual and the mental side, as well as, the physical. I never really had an issue with, although I wasn't that flexible, but that's really improved now. But so I think it's a matter of being open and trying to understand what it's all about, and that it's just not a physical benefit that you're getting. There's so much more to it. It's much more holistic.
And I think the other roadblock most people feel is that you have to be flexible, that you go into these massive, twisting postures, etc. But literally everybody can do yoga. I have a 90-year-old yogi, and she practices with me weekly. She has been a yogi for a substantial amount of time, but she really gives me lessons in life. She's going through transitions with her life cycle, and she gives me so many benefits by connecting with her. So whilst I'm her teacher and and she loves the guidance that I give her, she gives me so much more in life lessons. And I think that's the real benefit of yoga, is this deeper connection, not only to yourself, but your community.
Yeah. And that's lovely, isn't it? I hope that I'll be able to still be doing yoga when I'm in my 90s.
She is amazing, living on her own. She still drives a car. She volunteers at her RSL. She volunteers at a medical practice where they actually have her as a practicing client. So she does ultrasounds, and she's just got such an abundance mindset that everybody sort of gravitates to her. She's just a beautiful person.
Yeah, very inspirational, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, so how did you actually come to yoga? Have you always done it, or what was your introduction to it?
I first signed up to a health and wellness program while I was at a corporate role a number of years ago, and that was my introduction. However, I really didn't take up the discipline until I had a number of health crises. I had 2 back surgeries, I had hysterectomy, I also had a thyroid problem. So that gave you a bit of an insight, all within 6 months. So it was this profound realization I really needed to have a lifestyle change. And I knew yoga was definitely physical, but I didn't really understand how it could really benefit me. So being that I had back surgery and I went through a rehabilitation program, I really needed to make sure that I wanted to keep moving, because I was quite a physical person and quite fit. I wanted to be able to do something that I was connected to. And every time I went to a class, like you said, I just felt amazing. This just abundant energy. I felt physically good, but also I had a different perspective of life. And it came at a crossroads where you realize in your life cycle that I wanted more in the way of work-life and balance. So thankfully, my husband agreed to relocate to Thailand, and we moved to Thailand. fortunately he could still work.
Mm.
And I was able to study and travel and gain my accreditation in the traditional sense, go and do it in India, immerse myself into the lifestyle, really get a sense of what that traditional aspect of learnings through the teachings that they do have, and practice and connect with other yogi people like-minded, my tribe. And when I came back to Australia, I realized that whilst the traditional methods, while it's 5,000 years old, it has a requirement to be tweaked in the fact that we need to link it to our modern lifestyle. We are so stimulated in our modern lifestyle that we really need to understand how I can give that traditional method to people who come and practice with me. And I guide my students a little bit differently. I have I'm really conscious of ensuring that I understand how their body feels, because I always say your body changes day to day, sometimes hour by hour. And it's really drawing on that awareness and how that influences you, because we have so many stimulating mediums in our lives now, and we're so busy that it really means to me that we have a service, or I've got a service that I can provide to my students and give them a fulfilling session that makes them feel good, but also tools and strategies to help them with their normal day-to-day lives. And I think that's the most important aspect of what I provide in my services.
Yes, yes. And I know myself, if I've had a really busy day, I try and do my yoga in the afternoon because I've got commitments early mornings. So I do it in the afternoons, and if I've had a busy day, sometimes it does take me a little while to actually get into it because my mind is all over the place. But once I finish, as I said before, you just get that beautiful calm feeling, and I'm really pleased that I've sort of carved out that time in my day to devote to that practice.
And that's the thing. Yeah, it's that devotion and actually commitment that you're giving to yourself. It's just self-love and self-care, which I continually promote.
Well, I'm a big advocate of that too, because, the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. And the other thing is, we are individuals, so we're allowed to look after ourselves. We're allowed to love ourselves as human beings, and we're allowed to do things for ourselves. We're always busy doing for everyone else, and that can still happen, but you need to make sure you have that time for yourself, and I find that with yoga as well. So I wanted to talk to you about, because this is mainly directed at women over 50 and beyond, what are benefits? You've said that anyone can do it. So what are some of the health benefits of starting a yoga practice?
I think one of the main benefits I see a lot of my clients, particularly in my age group, over and 50, etc., is balance. I think they're saying that over 40, your balance starts to get affected. So balance is definitely one that I find most of my students have a huge benefit from. The other aspects is obviously flexibility and strength, but more so on joint management, also menopausal discomfort, particularly in our age group, and the moderation of chronic pain. I know that as our body changes, we start to experience different joint pains, different elements of pains within our body. And it's this realization by doing a regular, consistent practice that you are more in tune with what your body needs, and you can adapt to that. So from a beneficial point of view, it also helps to improve your memory. When you actually attend a class, you do need to have a focus on what cues are being provided to you by a teacher. So while you're having this body experience, you still need to have a mind connection to what's being instructed to you. So I know my husband, when he watches my YouTube channels, he says straight away, he said, that's too fast. I couldn't do that. And I said, this is one of the elements and benefits of yoga, is because you do need to listen and you need to connect this body and mind. So this deeper connection actually does happen when you actually participate in a yoga session. So I think there are huge benefits for particularly anyone who's over that sort of 40 plus years. And like I said, I've got a whole range of different age groups that come and practice with me.
Yeah. So I've heard, or I've read and seen that there's different types of yoga practices. Can you just talk a little bit about, I think there's Hatha and
Yes.
and Bikram.
Bikram.
You know, I'm not au fait with it all, but I do know there's different forms, but I'm not really sure what they are. So I wondered if you could give us a little bit of insight into that.
Yes. So Hatha is definitely the most ancient practice, and it is a practice where you have probably not a huge number of postures to the sequence that you go through. You have longer periods of breath within each of the postures. So you could up to 5 to 10 breaths holding one particular posture. There's Iyengar, which is very props based. So they give you postures that are supported by props. So you have different body shapes, you have different body elements. Iyengar is very much alignment based, so they have props to enable you to get into those shapes, and they can modify those.
Yeah. So would that be something like the blocks that you use?
Yes. Yeah. I love props, and I really encourage anyone who does practice yoga to utilize blocks, because it does give you that sense of comfortable, settling aspect of yoga, rather than pushing and extending yourself when you shouldn't be. So I am very in tune to how body shapes come across when I teach someone, and I can see in their facial expressions that they're in discomfort. I don't want you to be in that state. You need to be in a state of comfort while you're exerting, but you don't want to feel heightened discomfort or pain. So there's that element of awareness. Vinyasa is what I traditionally practice, and that is a fast-paced physical practice. And I also practice a restorative yin style. And the reason why I promote those styles is you've got a left and right side, your yang and yin side. Your yang is your physical aspect, your right brain side, and your yin side is your calming state side. So I recommend anyone who's looking at starting yoga, have a look at all the different styles, connect with what you feel you need. If you're quite physical, you may need a physical practice, and you need to have that because your mind is quite thoughts that keep coming into your mind. You can't seem to find that calm state. I find having that physical exertion will give you that calm state. If you find that you are quite apt to a more calming circumstances, you can incorporate that in your normal session. So I would do one session of yang, which is a physical session, and then do one session of restorative yin style. And the reason I recommend that is to provide you balance. And that's what my motto is providing you balance, harmony. So you've got that level of, okay, my yang side needs to still have that engagement, but I also need to have that restorative, rejuvenated, calming session that I know that enables my body to feel the sense of healing that yoga can get.
Yeah. So that was going to be my next question, but you've actually touched on it a little bit about some advice for someone who wants to start.
Yes.
I mean, there's so much out there, as you said, there's YouTube, there's, but what do you do when someone comes to you or connects with you and they want to start yoga? What do you sort of take them through?
Okay, so I definitely do a meet and greet with any new students that come to me, primarily because I need to get an understanding of any sort of health elements that they may be contending with. So everyone has different elements that they may be contending, whether they're quite stressed or whether it's more physical and they've got shoulder injury, back soreness, hips. And that's traditionally my opening meet and greet. If anyone who comes to me, I have about 15 minutes to have a discussion about what they expect out of the session, what they can see out of the session, and then I will take them through. Hopefully they're at my beginners session so that I can really give them some clear instructions, keep them confident, because that's the biggest element, is making sure that they are confident, providing them clear instructions, and that way just keeping them moving forward. So if I can get them moving forward, keep them confident, and keep them happy at the end of the sessions, then I think I've done a great session with them. I would always recommend anyone who is looking at starting yoga, research it. We've got Google. It's a wonderful medium search engine to have a look at what styles you would like to look at. Studio-based, online-based. I would recommend as a beginner, definitely student or an interactive online, primarily because you would need to understand where they may need some guidance and modifications. So, you know, some adjustments, they may be doing something that could be unsafe. So you want to make sure that they're not doing something that could lead to further risks and injuries. So that's from a beginner's point of view, but from my point of view, every person is a beginner. It doesn't matter what stage you are within your own practice. I know I need to connect with a teacher, because that connection is really a spiritual guide. So if you're not connecting with a teacher, if you go into a couple of your first class and you haven't connected with them, don't give up. No. Keep going to different styles, perhaps different teachers, and you'll find that connection. And once you find that connection, you'll find that you'll gain more confidence. You'll be able to continue your journey. And that's what my dharma is. My purpose is really to excite people about yoga and what the benefits are. And hopefully people will get huge benefits in the way that they have within their own health and living style.
So, well, I know I connected with you immediately when we first met, and it is important, and sometimes it's that gut instinct, isn't it? You sort of know, yep, I really feel comfortable, I've connected with this person, and it just makes the whole experience so much better, because you're not quite so afraid to ask about something, or, you know, you might be a bit hesitant. I'll get the word out in a minute. You might not want to ask because you think, oh, I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm going to. So you've got to feel comfortable in that relationship, haven't you? And trust as well.
Massive amount of trust. And I think it's definitely, it's very critical to your journey. I think you need to have that connection, that safety, that you feel like you'll be able to progress in a comfortable way and at your own pace, because there is definitely people who will overextend themselves, and that is when, you know, incidents will happen, and you don't want that.
And I think that's the thing, even though you can do it virtually, having that what I would say is like an interactive virtual experience, rather than just putting on just a YouTube channel where you're just following along. You need that, because it's so easy to just try and overdo it, or you know, you're pushing that bit harder or whatever, or you're not sure of the correct technique. And I think it's very important to start with that, especially. So I'm a little bit excited because you've got a virtual retreat coming up in a few weeks, which I've already booked into, and it's the first one I've done, so I'll be looking forward to that. Awesome. But I want to talk to you about those, and you know, COVID has really, in one way, helped, hasn't it? Because you know, we're all going virtual, we're getting used to that sort of environment, and I mean, we're having a conversation today, and I feel like we're just sitting down together in the same room having a coffee. And you know, it's the same with any sort of connection through the virtual world. So I'm very interested to hear about the virtual retreat, and I just wondered if you'd like to tell us a little bit about it. And I'll also be putting a link in the comments area so that people can contact you directly about it. But do you have them often, or I'll just let you
Yes. So
describe what they are.
yes. So it's funny you should mention COVID, because that definitely was a catalyst for my business.
Yeah.
I had been working at a small studio, and I felt that I wasn't expanding and reaching enough people. I really got this passion that I really want to touch every person
Yeah.
in the world. So once COVID happened, I decided, okay, online, and a lot of my clients really embraced it. Others were a little bit hesitant
Yeah.
because of the technology. And I really needed to guide them through that technology and give them some support to go through that. So, you know, I've had a couple of virtual retreats since the beginning of COVID, and it's been really well received in the fact that I'm supporting people in through this technology aspect, and they're learning something new, but also giving back in the way of, you know, the changing environment that we've now find ourselves in. So it's really key for me to connect with them virtually, but also personally. So I give them a quick call before we start, just to get a bit of confidence of what they'll be doing. I also have a very outlined schedule that you'll be included in with any communication. It's all available on my website. So we will be practicing a whole range of elements that are connected with yoga, mantras, mudras, as well as meditation. That'll be the first half an hour that you'll be experiencing within the retreat. And you'll also have an integration of what's called the chakra energy channels. And the chakra energy channels is a deeper insight to our body and how these energy hub stations actually work within our body. So I incorporate the elements of yoga and our energy basing chakra energy channels within our body. And we'll do asanas, and then we'll also do what's called yoga nidra, which is a meditation sleep guided practice that I'll give you at the end. And it's a beautiful way to spend an afternoon for self-care and self-love. And I find that I've had clients who have been coming, I've had 3, 2, this will be my 3rd one, and they keep coming back. So obviously they're enjoying it. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to have you, because it's going to be wonderful. And you'll be giving a different experience of how you can actually reclaim your calmness and just really sit with yourself and enjoy the whole experience.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to it because it goes for a couple of hours, I think, from memory. And
Yes.
you know, sometimes we sort of think, oh, I don't have 2 hours. But if you just make that time, as I said, I'm looking forward to it because I think the whole thing will be, you know, I'm going to set myself up and just have a nice
You'll be
calm
learning. This is the
environment,
thing.
and I'll be
Yes.
learning. Um,
Yes.
because you've said a couple of words there that I really don't know the meanings of, but it's
Yeah,
some of it's a different language, isn't it? So
it is. It
yeah,
is. And
so
don't worry, I will guide you through. It'll be
yeah,
a beautiful experience, and all those words, I will link it to, you know, the layman
yeah.
modifications of what it all means. So don't worry. It'll
No,
be fantastic.
no. Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So
Awesome.
and I haven't really done anything like that before. So another new experience. See, I'm 63 next month, and I'm
Brilliant.
still experiencing new things in life. So I think that's the key as well. So look, I've really enjoyed having you today, and I just want to ask you a question before I go
Mhm.
that I always ask my guests, and that
Yes.
is, what does being a woman living well mean to you?
Woman living well to me. For me, it's the practice of yoga, that experience where I can feel comfortable in my own body and feel a sense of, when I wake up in the morning, I feel eager and I've got vitality, and I jump out of bed feeling I can take on the day. And it's all about providing this harmonious lifestyle that I'm keen to engage in. and learning all new experiences. And I think yoga definitely gives me that passion and that capability of um, servicing other people. And I think that's part of the personality that I am, is that dharma, that purpose, and I have to have that purpose. Hence why, you know, I had a successful corporate job, and you know, it just wasn't giving me that purpose any longer.
Yeah.
And I was really seeking for something that I can go out and service other people, and hopefully they can experience what I experienced, this vitality and eager to life.
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful answer. And I love asking that question because I get a different answer every time. So it's
Oh,
really good
really?
because well, they're different, but perhaps the same in you know, in the foundations. But it's just lovely to get someone else's perspective on how they feel.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really a
Yeah.
good answer there. So I love
Thank you
that.
so much.
Yeah, and so I wanted to thank you for joining me today. And before I let you go, is there any other little um, points that you want to talk about before we finish
Yes.
today?
Oh, I think um, from my perspective, you know, definitely if you are a first-time practitioner, I welcome them with open arms. I can guide you through. I've got beginners yoga sessions. I have got virtual. I also offer privates, and my privates are quite popular at the moment because people have wanting that connection. They're doing the virtual, but I also incorporate the private sessions as well. And the yoga retreats is a form of yoga where it's a little bit more intensive and extensive, and it gives you a deeper connection. So
Mm.
I think from my business, it's definitely the harmony is and balance of you as a person and how you can live your lifestyle in the manner that you are going to be feeling happy and joyful in life. And that's the main aspect of why I'm in this health and wellness service, is
Mm.
hopefully giving.
Well, yeah, and you know, you made me think too, because we're very similar in that our purpose, I think you said to me in a previous conversation, is your dharma, which I learnt was
Mhm.
purpose, is
Yes.
to serve
Yeah.
and to encourage and help others to, you know, live well. And that's where I'm coming from as well. And I want to bring people as much information that I can through these conversations on a range of topics, because for me, health and wellness is the foundation, but
Yeah.
there's so much more to a life well lived. And I think that, you know, we've really covered a lot today. I'd love you to come back and we can discuss more. And as I said, I'm
I'll
really
talk
looking
about
forward to
yoga
the
all
retreat.
day.
Yeah. Well, look, I've just finished, I just did a group fitness certificate, and
Yeah.
I'm teaching that, but I've also would love to study yoga, but of course
Oh, yeah.
I'm not in a position to go to India or Asia at the moment. But
No,
you know, I
no.
think that you do come to love it, really, don't you? So I can hear the
It is.
passion that you have for it, and that makes a difference too. If you love what you're doing, that's going to just shine through, and it will become infectious. But you know, I'd rather have that sort of infection than the COVID virus, that's for sure.
It's so true.
Yeah,
Great end to the conversation.
yeah. So, lots about passion and purpose. So
Yeah.
thanks again. As I said, thanks for joining me. And if you'd like to connect with Carol, I'm going to put all of her links in the comments. So pop over to her website and her YouTube channel, and we'll put in there about the retreat, because if you missed this one coming, she will be having more. So you can find out how to book and all of that. And she also has a free ebook that you can download and video. And I'm going to have to read this. And I hope I pronounce it properly. And it's all about pranayama. the spiritual background, an introduction for breath work, promoting relaxation and preparation for meditation. And that's available on her website. And that's very good tip for me. But that's something we can talk about, either the breath, how important that is. But we can, we'll get you back for another episode where we can talk about the importance of breathing.
Oh, it's just
and that's that's a topic in itself. So I'm sure we could do that. So I'll book you in for that.
Fantastic.
Okay, well, lovely to have you today. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a conversation. Share it with a friend who you think might be interested in the topic. And if you like what you've heard, then leave me a review. I look forward to you joining me and my guest for the next episode of Women Living Well After 50. And in the meantime, remember to embrace life and live well every day. I'll talk to you soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.